So thank you all for coming. You ready, Louise? All right. Welcome to our Spring Sustainability Seminar Series. I'm Kishore Rajagopalan, Associate Director at the Illinois Sustainable Technology Center. For those of you who are new or joining us over the web, the mission of the center is to advance sustainable practices, reduce pollution, and enhance human and environmental health with a primary focus within the manufacturing and industrial space. We are one of 5 surveys organized within the Prairie Research Institute. The Institute, through its integrated, objective research, seeks to ensure sustainable economic development, enduring environmental quality, and cultural resource preservation for the people, businesses, and governments of Illinois. The goal of this Spring Sustainability Seminar Series is to listen to various perspectives on sustainability-related issues in Illinois. We have encouraged our speakers to articulate their priorities, perceived needs, opportunities, and ongoing work to stimulate broader collaboration and to find common ground. I'm pleased to welcome today's speaker, Steve Massey, from the Illinois Department of Transportation. Steve is the Sustainable Practices Manager for the Illinois Department of Transportation. Steve came on board in July of 2003, and he has served as Senior Local Agency Liaison and Community Relations Manager prior to becoming Sustainable Practices Manager. He is a graduate of Illinois State University with a degree in political science. Steve has worked with the Green Initiatives for most of his IDOT tenure and has been instrumental in IDOT receiving several sustainability awards, including the Governor's Award last year. He was instrumental in the interstate biosignage implementation in Illinois, promoting the use of pre-passway trucks, inclusion of biofuel station locations on gettingaroundillinois.com, and color coding of cities on the Illinois State Map Index to indicate the cities that have biofuel stations. He also conceived and developed the Illinois Fallen Soldier Tree Memorial in Illinois State Park, implemented the annual 10,000 Trees to Schools initiative, and the annual Rain Barrel Design Contest to Illinois schools. He is a member of the Governor's Green Government Coordinating Committee and is co-chair of the Transportation Subcommittee. He has also served on the Green Schools, K-12, Sustainable Universities, and IT subcommittees. As IDOT Sustainable Practices Manager, Steve makes policy recommendations to the Secretary of Transportation and senior level staff, identifies sustainability opportunities that may provide the department with significant benefit, including grants and other financial savings, works to ensure compliance by tracking all environmental legislation that affects the department, promotes the conservation of resources, energy efficiency, waste reduction and recycling, pollution prevention, increased reliance on renewable resources, and other measures consistent with sustainable living, sustainable practices by the department and those cross-departmental. Before we get started, a couple of key points. Restrooms are the hallway across the reception and through the door to my right. In case of emergency, please stand up and follow the instructions of John Scott, the safety officer here. With that, Steve, it's all yours. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. The introduction is probably going to be longer than my presentation, possibly, but I appreciate it. And as you can see from what Kishore brought through my introduction, I'm all over the board for IDOT. It's not just working. I know I've worked with Kishore and with Dr. Blasik and Todd and a lot of others here with the switchgrass initiative that University is working with also. But I work throughout the department as far as working with highway innovation, with in the buildings, internal energy efficiency, outreach processes and programs. So I'm all over. You know, it's one of these situations where you try to know something about everything, but you have to bring in the experts in order to really make some of these things take form and become something very useful. And that's one of the things I try to bring to the table. Is I try to bring imagination. I come up with I'm an idea guy. I used to kind of say that I'm the Don King of sustainability. I promote it. I come up with ideas and concepts, and there's things I do very well, and there's things I don't. And one of the things I try to bring to the table is I know who can, and find those people and get them on board to work with us to make this happen. So I'm proud to be part of this. This is I think it's when I grew up years ago, a long time ago. I grew up in a family where my grandparents on my mother's side came from Italy with very little, in a third-grade education. And at about 8 years old, my grandfather, who I admired more than anybody, what he lacked in education, he was great with common sense and caring about his family and about his community. And one of the things I learned was he told me, he said in his Italian accent, I came here with nothing. He says, if I was in the old country, I wouldn't have anything. But look, he says, I have no education. I've got a good house. I've got a good family. I've got a good job. He says, if I lived, in Italy, I wouldn't have anything. He says, this is the best country in the world. He said, nobody's going to listen to me. He says, I talk funny. He says, and I don't have any education. He says, but you're a smart boy. He says, you give something back to this country. And I thought, even at 8 years old, I thought that's not a bad thing to do. What else could you do better than that? And I thought, where could I do that? And I was watching John Kennedy give a speech, and I was sitting on the floor, and I thought, he gave you hope. He made you feel that there was something that could be accomplished in this world, and I thought government is a place to do it. I mean, there's a lot of places to contribute to society in a good form, but in teaching and in nursing and being a doctor or whatever, there's a lot of things to give back, but government is so expansive of where you can contribute and try to find a niche or even go beyond a niche and make things good happen in the world, and that's what I wanted to do. I mean, I got involved in politics at an early age, and I didn't get in it because I wanted money or I wanted power. I thought it was a good leverage point to make some good things happen. Sounds cliche, but it's true. All I ever wanted to do was make some good things happen. You're here for a short time, and why not? What have you got better to do? It's just as easy to get up every morning and do something good as it is to wake up and try to figure out how I can do something bad or get around doing something at all. So that's the kind of position I come from. Moving on into some of the initiatives that we have, as you can see here, we have quite a few. There's a lot of things that, like I said earlier, I'm all over the board. We've got the bike plan, Illinois bike plan, which is the first that we've ever done. That's on the table and should be rolled out very quickly. Green Government Awards. Every year we submit items that we do to the Green Government Coordinating Council to try to win awards for what we do in sustainability. Idling policy. I'll get into some of that too a little bit later here. The wind turbine. All of these, I don't think I can probably go through some of these without reading them all off to you, but because we'll get into each one later on throughout the presentation. But they're all good things. They're not easy. It sounds like to look at those, you'd think it's easy, but we are dealing with government. We're dealing with a governmental entity, and there's a lot of roadblocks. There's people roadblocks. There's procurement roadblocks. There's the idea that we've always done it this way roadblock. The imagination. I hate to bring up another boxing equation, but you have to be ahead of the game. You can't wait until it's supposed to be. You have to have and getting there is hard. I mean, it's almost like Muhammad Ali with the bobbing and weaving. It's not a straight line. There's a lot of deterrence. There's a lot of issues such as money that get involved, and they're becoming even more difficult now than they did, I think, several years ago because of the procurement issues. The problem comes to be that a few bad people make it so that you can't go out and find the most expedient and the cheapest or product that you can find and get it implemented. You have to go through a process that's long and very drug out. And sometimes in the process, when you're thinking you're going to be first, you see somebody else has already got it done by the time you get to the end result. But I love this. I wouldn't want to be any other place. And I don't want to ever give this up. I told them going in, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to stay at the department. I don't have a desire to go to any other area. The first item here is the Illinois Bike Transportation Plan. This is something that, because I don't know if everybody's noticed, but a lot more transportation, a lot of people are walking, a lot of people are riding bicycles more than they did a few years back. When I was young, a lot of people rode bicycles. I'd get up in the morning, you'd go out the door, and you'd grab your bike, and sometimes you wouldn't come home until you were hungry. So, but now you don't have that type of situation. But you see people using it more for a mode of actual real transportation than I think you used to do. The same thing with pedestrian travel. So this is we're working this into our the non-motorized section area of our long-range transportation plan, and there's a lot of things that is new. This is something that hasn't been put out there at a statewide process before. And one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to give better access. Sometimes, especially in cities and in rural areas where I live, there isn't a bike trail. There isn't. You ride it. You take your life into your hands when you ride a bicycle because there isn't any distinction from where the cars are supposed to be and the bicycles are supposed to be or anything like that. So we're working on the planning and policy recommendations in order to make it the best possible. Our guru for this is Gabe Sulkus. He works out of OP&P for IDOT, and he's a bike rider himself, and he's really worked very diligently to put this bike transportation plan together. And besides access, we're looking at we want to have connectivity. Connectivity is huge because one of the conference calls I was on, and I can't be on every conference call for every type of issue that's going on out there, but this one that I was on was really interesting because they're trying to connect Indiana, Illinois, and into Wisconsin where you don't hardly have to get off your bicycle at all in order to move, to take your bike all the way, and eventually this will be so that you can go all the way across the United States in some form through bicycling. So that's major. Safety, of course, is one of the big challenges, and but collaboration too. You want to be able to work with the cycling groups, people that are very interested in this, have a lot of knowledge on this, people that have been working with this for several years. I used to ride 60 miles a day when I had time when I was younger, and I don't do that anymore. But I don't know if you're familiar with Starved Rock State Park, but I'd go through those curves there and through those hills, and you felt like your heart was going to explode. But it's great. It's good. It's a good, cheap transportation, and it's good for the individual to get the exercise to do it. So it's something that the department is trying to enhance and bring the better capability to use that to do it. As was pointed out in the introduction on the Green Government Award, we've won probably, since I've been there, I think 7 out of the 10 years. When I first started to introduce what we did to IDOT, at IDOT in sustainability areas, we won awards in the past. The 2013, we won it for the Rain Barrel Contest. This was a contest that was opened up to schools all across the state. They would, we issued a template that they could, the students, we sent everything by email. basically. So again, that's a sustainable way to send everything to either teachers or principals at schools all across the state. And we asked them to have their students, in accordance to grade categories, what they would have seen, on the template of a rain barrel with some type of a environmental scene, or to depict something that was in nature or environmental in nature. And we had a great response from that, and we obtained 50 rain barrels from the Illinois Department of Corrections. They would take barrels that they had 55-gallon drums, and they would, after the hand soap was gone from those, they would rinse them out, get them all cleaned out, and retrofit them with rain barrel apparatus that could be used to be as a rain barrel. So it was basically a plain rain barrel, but we would present that to the winners of each category for the schools around the state. 50 different schools would win each year. And then they would put their design on that barrel and have it installed at the school, which is great. I mean, it was a good learning tool. It was good artistic capability, and taught people about nature and about environmental issues in that respect. Then on one of the other ones, we just talked about for outreach, the Illinois Bike Plan was one of the other things that we wanted for. 10,000 trees. Every year we get together with Living Lands and Waters out of the Quad Cities area. I don't know, Chad Pregracki, who just won the CNN Hero of the Year. This is a leader that founded Living Lands and Waters. This great program that he has there. Unbelievable amount of things he removes from the rivers. They have the Million Tree program. And we decided, why don't we, I thought for an outreach capability, IDOT as a department, because of salt, because of chemicals, because of roadway different programs that we have, destroy trees in a lot of ways. We have to remove them, or we have to cut them down, or they get destroyed. So we do have a tree replacement program that's 1-for-1, and if there's small trees that we're replacing it with, we do 1 or 2 more than that. But I thought, besides that, why don't, if we're getting trees for free to try to help a great program out, why don't we do this and utilize, again, an educational process through the schools? And so we would get 10,000 trees each year, and we would have our community relations managers in each district make contact with the schools close enough that in proximity that they didn't have to drive 100 miles to pick up their allotment of trees, so that it would be a sustainable program in that respect too. But we did that for 4 consecutive years. This was the first year that we actually skipped it, and I really felt bad to do that, because it's a great program, and but we've done 40,000 trees in that respect. They're all oak trees. Living Lands and Water grows them themselves, and their goal is within 10 years to get 1 million trees put out around the area. So I thought it was a good program to work with. The wind turbine, that I was just talking to Kishore earlier about that we had a situation where we were going to put it at Mississippi Rapids rest area. Actually, it's a welcome center right at the Iowa border off of Interstate 80. And it came to our attention that it's an eagle pattern area there, flying area, roosting area, and also Indiana bat could be present in the area. So we're really anticipating the possibility of moving that to another rest area that would not have that type of situation involved. Again, this is new. This is something that we hadn't done in the past. There's a lesson learned here that we have to have better studies that show what can be affected by what we do. So it doesn't make sense to, as my grandfather would say, fix one thing and break another. So I mean that would be the situation there. But we're looking at doing that, and we have a pilot project of having at least one installed. Hopefully by the end of this year we'll have that up and running. Every year I produce the annual Green Government Report, which is very lengthy. I think there's few in the room that have worked with the Green Government Report. And what I found when I produced that is that we don't have the capability to answer all those questions. And one of the reasons is well, we have a large, IDOT isn't very large. We have over 5,200 people working at IDOT. We have 9 districts. It's all over the state. We have trucks. We have buildings. We have utilities. We have everything that you can possibly think of that need to be monitored and kept track of. And a lot of that information isn't there. And we're working, so what you'll see later on, we've developed a IDOT Sustainability Committee that will help try to bring the capability to get better answers for those questions, and also help us to set baselines so that we know where we're at and see if we're improving or slipping backward on a lot of our sustainability ideas and things that we need to do. Sustainability scorecard and performance metrics. This has to do with our projects that we have around the state. We want to be able to have a scorecard that during the process from start to finish, that we can keep track of all sustainability aspects that are done within a project. Now, not all projects, and the scorecard won't say, well, this project had more points or less points. It doesn't. The points won't matter. It's if when the capability is there to utilize a sustainable measure, that it's utilized. Some won't have as many areas that'll fit. So, and I know initially some people were worried that we were going to, if they didn't have a high score, that meant they didn't do a good job on the job, and that's not true. I mean, what it does is it keeps everybody in line, is trying to, where there's a sustainable capability, utilize it. And if you don't, show the reason why it wasn't utilized, and see if we can't work that somehow that later on that it becomes part of it. But it's huge because this kind of thing was not looked at before. We built roads, and we built them without that type of thing to be a huge consideration. We always did we've done environmental studies for a long time as far as that goes, but in the actual building, the drainage capabilities, the effects of the wildlife needs to be really taken into respect, because it's something that needs to be, it's diminishing, and we got to, as a people, have to try to reduce that loss. Total recycle asphalt hot mix. We won an award for this also. The materials lab out of Schaumburg, we have some really bright people working in materials in that area, and they came up with a asphalt hot mix asphalt material that utilized just about, almost about 97% of it is recycled material. The thing that we're looking at now, and we did it on 3 road projects in the state last year, and now we're going to try to see how it holds up. That's one of the things that, it's great that we've got this type of, we're using recycled materials, but if you have to go in and replace it every 2 years or something, then you're defeating the purpose in a lot of respects there too, because you're doing material over and over and over again. But I think it might be the first in the country that ever did roadways with that high of a content of recycled asphalt. So it's major, and hopefully it'll be something that proves to be a good process. Again, one of the other things I mentioned was outreach and internal type of things that we do. Curb Your Car, Bike to Work. Every year that comes up, and every year I try to get more and more staff to take part in that. Last year we had 39 participants, and they logged over 4,300 miles using alternative transportation to get to work, and that was just during 1 week of process. And just doing 1 week isn't going to change everybody's habits to a degree, but at least it shows them that they can do that, and some probably will. There were some that were already doing it, and this is the thing with any type of sustainable initiative. There's people that are going to buy in very quickly because that's who they are, and then there's people you have to sell it to. and it's very difficult to do that. But so some of those participants, unless it's really a real problem to get to work, they bike or walk or use some form of alternative transportation. Walk to school, again, we did this where we send everything out in emails to the schools across the state. Every year it's in October. We try to get as many schools to participate across the state to have their students walk to school in a safe manner. We stress that some areas it's not very safe to walk to school, so we don't want to push that situation. But we had a few schools in the past that had 100% participation. The staff, the teachers, the students, and even parents, because some of the parents walked their children to school on the day. So that was huge. We had 167 schools participated last year. When you look at, we sent out over 4,600 emails. That's not a lot, but it's a start. And each year we put it back out there and try to gain more momentum with that. Electric vehicles. We have 3 in service right now. These vehicles came in through Central Management Services. This was a governor's office initiative that they wanted to implement electric vehicles in the state fleet. IDOT, I'm glad to say, is probably the agency that has used the vehicles the most. We have, at the time that this was put together, about 12,338 miles on the total on the 3 vehicles, which is good. The range capacity on these is only about 50 to 60 miles. So they're usually used to go to the post office, short trips, things of that nature most of the time. And but the people that drive them, they love them. They think it's great. There are some problems in the winter. If you try to use defrosters or heaters, it diminishes your battery capability to a great extent, like 40% can diminish that. So one of the things that I really advocated was that we try to go to plug-in hybrids. I like electric, but electric, as far as pool vehicles, doesn't fit the bill. I mean, they're good for the short trips, and we do utilize it for that. But rather than even hybrids or high mileage vehicles, or to have great gas mileage or whatever, plug-in hybrids, I mean, you're talking 90 to 100 miles to a gallon with a full charge and utilizing regular fuel. And a lot of times when you, for what we use them for, you leave Springfield, you got to go to Chicago or any of the 9 districts to go for some type of a process. It would be huge for us to do that, and unfortunately that's not, there isn't a contract in place through Central Management Services for us to obtain those vehicles at this time. But I keep bringing it up on our transportation subcommittees calls, and I don't get real far with it, but sometimes I probably wear it out. But I believe in it. I think it's something to be really great for us to have in place. Compressed natural gas vehicles, we're CNG. We have a pilot project that looks like it within, probably by the end of this month, there's a good possibility we'll have that truck in place. We're getting a 60,000 pound, I think, gross weight vehicle to put the type of vehicles we use for snow plowing. We're going to try to test it in summer and winter conditions to see how it works for us under the uses that we do. CNG, it's plentiful. I mean, but it's plentiful in that we have it as a resource, but it's not plentiful in the fact that we don't have any stations, and it's going to be very difficult to utilize that in many areas of the state. So we're putting that pilot truck in Chicago because there is CNG fueling stations there. But in the future, again, the cost is going to be very, very large because snowplows, you can't have it where you don't have access to fuel at a good pace. You have to be able to go refuel and go back out on the road again. And so we're going to have our own facilities probably in the future, and they're very costly. They probably would pay for themselves over a long period of time, but as everybody knows, financial situations, the public, and a lot of people in government are looking for immediate, quick payback. You know, with the long-range projects that can pay off 20, 30 years down the road are not something that are very palatable right now. It's something that, you know, we want our money, we want to see return on our money very quickly. So that's something that's going, that we're working with, and we should have some type of results going on here within the next, you know, this year or so. Zipcar, we have over 40 employees signed up for Zipcar. Zipcar is a situation where we, I think, well, in Springfield they have them at the train station. You can, if you have a Zipcar card, you can take the car, take it to wherever you need to go, and you know, if you get off the train, you can use that car. But some of the problems is parking with your car that you get there. Some of the facilities don't have a good place. You have to be dropped off because you don't have a place to park your own vehicle while you're taking the Zipcar or whatever. Too. But, oh, really? Well, that's good. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, but again, you know, we've got 5,200 employees. We've got 40 people who signed up, mostly Chicago people and Springfield. You know, but the utilization of it has not been as much as everybody would like it to be done. But, let's go green. IDOT's alternative transportation challenge. I'm really excited about this. This is going to be something that it's very similar to the curb your car, bike, walk, or whatever, but it's statewide. We're going to do this online. We're going to do it where we unveil it to the entire state of Illinois for anybody that wants to participate, and they can log in. It'll show, you know, what type of transportation they're using, how many miles they utilize, and it'll be real time showing how much emissions are being saved, how many miles are being saved, you know, from regular vehicle travel. And we're going to work with trying to have incentives out there for people to do that. It's going to be very exciting. And I know on the PowerPoint we show September 1st through the 30th, but I'm looking at maybe making it permanent, a constant thing, where it just, you know, for the next year or two, anybody that's on there is going to be able to see what's happening around the state as far as people participating in this. And it goes, you know, the main thing, one of the things that this is trying to do, you know, of course, everybody understands that personal vehicle use is the main emissions problem, and we need to get more people to use public transportation, bicycles, walking, and hopefully maybe this challenge, if we, you know, and if we do it in a very strong fashion, come out with a lot of press on it, you know, get some good notoriety about it, and get people pointed. Again, it's going to be one of these things where you're going to have natural people that are going to say they'll jump right on it because they're environmentalists, they're people that believe, they're people that want to try to do this. It's going to be the ones that, you know, for the last so many years of their life, that they, you know, they're going to get a car, they're going to get in the car, and they're going to go by themselves, and they're going to drive, and they like that freedom. And those are the people that are going to be very difficult to move to take part in that initiative. But I have high hopes for that, and I can't wait to get it moved out and started. This talks about the 40,000 trees, and that's something I already covered quite a bit from the living lands and water situation. I hope we can pick that up again at some point. I hope we can pick up the rain barrel competition again at some point. We do use rain barrels also at some of our rest areas where they have spouts or drainage, you know, the gutters. Some rest areas don't have that. When they built them, they didn't put, you know, the rain just runs off the roof in that fashion. So, but we do that, and the people that maintain the facility utilize the water from the rain barrels for the landscape and things of that nature. So, communications via the state map. A while back, I came up with the idea of on the legend of the state map, it shows every town or city, and I came up with a color coding idea so that people using the map would know that in that town or city, they would either know that there was a biofuel station of either type. One color showed for E85, another color showed for biodiesel, and another showed for the combination of the two. They have both facilities there. and we came up with the signage, the biofuel signage that you see on the interstates that says that up ahead there's a biofuel station, and then you got a wayfinding sign that shows take this exit, you go up that exit, and it'll point, but regulations don't allow us to promote the station or anything like that. So it's kind of potluck still. When you're driving with the biofuels vehicle, you still have to try to figure out when you're driving where that particular one was. But now, I came up with the other, the U.S. Department of Energy has everything listed, and nowadays everybody's got apps or they've got some kind of a communication device with them that they can go on this site that the U.S. Department of Energy has and find every type of fuel, alternative fuel station in the country. Not just biofuels, but electric and CNG and everything you can think of. So that's what we took off that color coding deal that we had on for one or two maps, and then we replaced it with this, which is far better system than, because sometimes with that other map, by the time you rolled the map out, it was a 2-year map, some of those stations would close or there'd be new ones that you didn't even know about. So it was obsolete by the time it hit the street. So, but this is a far better way to do it. We have established a sustainability committee, and got members from all across the department, from every bureau, every part of what we do, so that they can come to the table. And this is some of the things that we don't. There's things that IDOT has done that are sustainable for years, and we don't. Not everybody knows it. Some of it we take for granted. We do it, but it's not. Is that sustainable? We didn't know we did it. We just do it. That's part of our deal. So what we're trying to get is somebody from every area to go out and ferret all that type of thing that we do and bring it to the table and put it all into one centralized location. And then when we have all that, then we can see what we're not doing and try to implement what we're not doing. And some of the things that we're already doing, can we build on those? Is one district doing it but the other one not? Is this something that could grow throughout the state? And again, this is why when we did it, I wanted to have people that were really interested in this from each area, and not somebody that they just decided, this would be a good spot for so-and-so to go. We want people that have a passion a little bit for sustainability and want to bring that to the committee. So that's looking forward to working with that. That there's a lot of things coming out of one of the things we have to meet by 2016 is we're supposed to have 25% of our vehicles use alternative fuel, electric, CNG, but plug-in hybrids don't count. Hybrids don't count. And by 2016, there's a lot of vehicles on the road in the state, and to replace those with all sustainable with all CNG or electric is pretty much going to be a very hard task to do, because we don't have the fueling capability, we don't have the money in some respects to do that. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. We already do biodiesel, we already do E85. One of the things, E85, everybody says use more E85, and I'd love to do that. But in the rules and regulations on our vehicles, it says you go take the shortest route to your destination and back, and you fuel up at the closest facility and that type of thing. Well, you have to go out of your way to get to an E85 station sometimes. And so you're paying the state employee to go 5-6 miles out of the way to go get the 85, and then they're burning the gas and the fuel to go do it. I said, put it in the ground. Why didn't CMS put it in the ground? Most of the vehicles are now E85 capable. Instead of having regular fuel in the ground, all you'd have to do is change out the nozzles. The tanks are still compatible. You'd be able to use the tanks. But that hasn't happened either. And I'd love to see more biofuel used, because that's one of our major projects that I'm pushing with the department. So facility improvements, a lot of this is probably nothing new to most state agencies are trying to do this, and most private sectors are trying to do this in a lot of respects. You have installed occupancy sensors throughout some of our buildings, low flow fixtures on water faucets. Again, as I mentioned, we do rain barrels, utilizing LED and T8 lighting to reduce energy use. Really pushing for more LED. We did LEDs on our traffic signals and ran into a little problem with snow and ice. They don't heat up as well as the incandescent type lighting systems, and so they would get obstructed. So that's something you have to consider. One of the things I don't have here is the fact that we use a material now on our road signage that is highly reflective. It picks up light from our vehicles, from your vehicles at night, and we don't have to have as many electric lights showing those signs as we used to have. This material saves a lot of money and a lot of energy in terms of that. So we're replacing a lot of the signage with that reflective signage material. Recycling, we do the bottles, aluminum cans, alkaline batteries. Alkaline batteries, I've really run into a real problem. We had places around the state that would take them for free, and all of a sudden it was like somebody got the word all the way across the state that we're going to start charging to take them now. They're going to charge by the pound. And I don't know, I was under the impression that they got money when they recycled and they brought them to their, on the other end, when they take them from us, because they were going to get money for recycling. So now apparently they're going to make money on both ends. They're going to get money when they take them from you, and they're going to get money when they take them for the recycling themselves. So I'm trying to find a location if anybody here has any ideas on that, because we have quite a few batteries that have to be recycled. We recycle barricades, oil, antifreeze, paper, cardboard, toner cartridges. Toner cartridges are a major thing that we try to emphasize. Cell phones, we bring those to facilities that sometimes we give them to domestic violence shelters and things of that nature too, that they can utilize those for their purposes, office equipment. But then also included we have building upgrades, and this is something that we work with a lot through the Central Capital Development Board for any major changes or upgrades to our facilities. You go through the Capital Development Board, and we got 39 buildings with lighting upgrades that we're in the process. Now, some of these, the thing that is really difficult, and what I've been with the department for 10.5 years, but the thing that was hardest for me to get used to is how slow things happen. You know, some of the projects, you'll look at it and they put on the table in FY11, and the stage that they're at FY14 is that they've been awarded or something, you know, and so it's difficult. It's something that, and some things move rather quickly, but so that we've got a lot of that happening. 8 oil water separator projects. We've got 19 white roof projects. Those are fairly simple projects to do, and really getting on board with doing a lot of those for the reflectivity. 5 insulations. We've got 1 LEED certified. We don't have any LEED certified buildings for IDOT at this point, but they're working on building it off the Eisenhower. It's going to be LEED certified at the end process. Tankless water heaters, those are big to me. That we have maintenance facilities that sometimes there's nobody there for hours on end, and that water keeps reheating, recycling, you know, and on-demand tankless would be perfect for those situations. And we've only got one that's listed at this point that we're working with at this point. But it's something I'm going to do it at home. I built my house 24 years ago, and I'm going to put one of those in as soon as mine breaks and floods all over the floor. I don't know if anybody's ever had that happen, but I have. It's a mess, but you hear it clanking a lot, and then finally it just gives out. But high efficiency boiler and 7 high efficiency HVAC system projects. So we are working towards it. it's just, again, it's a process that, again, it's money. Some of the things initially cost more money than traditional concepts and ways that have been done in the past. Sometimes they do pay for themselves along the way, but it's just one of those situations where you have to try to figure, the payback period of time and all that type of situation. So office practices, just about everything now is electronic. So I mean, we've gone. It used to be that even to the legislature we'd bring our big 5-year plan and a book that was that thick or whatever, and now you got a CD, you just put the disc in and you've got the whole thing like that. Some people still want it; they still like the paper setup, but I don't know if anybody saw, but they were talking about the new 11-year-old or 14-year-old boy that came up with the new font. It is not new. I mean, I saw that and I thought, we sat at the table 3 years ago when we were doing paper reduction, we were doing copier reductions and things of that nature, and that was the very thing that we brought up. But we ran into obstacles due to some forms have to be in certain, in certain type of lettering. So that's where we ran into a problem on that. But it's not. I don't think it's that new. It's really weird how the media treated it. That it was something like it just revolutionized everything, and I'm not sure what the obstacles are at this point. Maybe everybody could change at that point. But, green office supplies are purchased as permitted by CMS contracts. If there's a green contract out there, then we try to utilize that. One of the things I did, we try to use both sides. All our copiers that are capable of two-side copies are put in that form. Print shop work is done that way, unless it's obvious. The customer says I need it just on one side for special purpose. Recycled content copier paper. Before I started pushing this, we had 0% of our copy paper was recycled. We then finally got 25%, and this past year I got it up to 30%. So hopefully I can get that moved. 2 years ago. That's when. Yeah, it's actually I think that there is I don't know if it's a rule or but state entities are supposed to be at 30% right now, I believe. I think that's what they're supposed to be. Switchgrass. Here we go. This is this is one of my favorite initiatives here. We started this, so this will be the 3rd year, starting fiscal year 2015 will be the 3rd year of the study. And we're looking at opportunities on IDOT right-of-ways to take and make biofuels in areas that are, right now, they're unproductive. All they do is mow them every year. And it's amazing the input you get from farmers or other people, travelers, that if you don't mow, there's a lot of people get very upset about it. They want that mowed. They want that pristine look. Well, that looks awful the way that grass is all growing out there. And to me, it looks great. I like a natural. That's why when I take vacations, I like to go into the areas that we don't have all of that happening. But they say that animals can be in there and they run out in front of cars, and, that type of thing. But but we've got a lot of acres. We have identified about 8,000 acres, and that's just preliminary identification of that we could possibly utilize to plant cellulosic grasses that can be used for biofuel or for other ideas that we have for. So we're taking something that's not done. We spend a lot of money every year to mow, and so why not? It's grasses, and it's not going to look much different than what's out there to a degree, but it'll be utilized. One of the things we're looking at right now is to put in a biomass heater burner in one of our facilities, the Clinton, Illinois facility, maintenance facility, and we would utilize that we'd use switchgrass in bale form, and we'd also use ash tree wood because of the ash tree infestation. There's a lot of trees that are on right-of-ways in the state of Illinois that have to be cut down. And there's moving issues with that also that we have to try to figure out. But we have maintenance facilities all over the state, so moving that wood probably is not going to be a problem within the parameters of some of the maintenance facilities' distance. So, but that hopefully we're going to have that installed this year in time for the winter heating season, and we can study the efficiency of that and what burns the best, what cost differentiation, emissions, and things of that nature. So, and it all ties together. What we're trying to do is utilize things that normally we don't utilize. We have to. It's one of those forward. You have to think forward. Things are changing. But at the same time, you've got to understand it. It's like, again, fix one thing, break another. You have to always try to see, if we do this, what's it mean? It's like what we did with the wind turbine. It sounds great, and it looked good initially, but there's other things that come into effect, and you have to have all, things that you might not foresee. So I used to do this with media. When I used to work with media a lot, and I knew I was going to be interviewed, I would think, boy, what I'm bringing out here is going to be great. And then I have to almost go out and put myself in their shoes and say, what are they thinking? Though I think it's great, but so you have to know every angle and every answer. And it's the same thing with initiatives. They sound good initially, but what is the final effect on this thing? What does it, one thing leads to another, and what are some of those things that it leads to? 2014 and beyond, basically what we're doing here is we're working with all the things that we already have in place. One of the things I want to do is I want to implement the first stretch of solar highway in the state of Illinois. I want to try to work it into one of our existing road projects, or find a place that it can be put into where there isn't really a road project at all yet, or the road exists, but lighting would work there. And I don't want, again, I try to do this for partnering. I try to reach across to agencies. I try to work across with utilities. One of the things I want to try to do is get the utilities to partner with us, and the people that make the lighting fixtures, lighting structure, and it's going to be good for them. It'll be good for us. It's good, and I think they might be happy to get on board with something like this to get about a 4-mile stretch of lighting that's done by solar energy. And it's something that I've got on the table now and I'm trying to work with. Some of the things that we do too, we do all the highway signage that you see. 50 to 60,000 of those a year are recycled. They take those and redo them, and it saves about, what is our gallons on that? It saves about 470,000 tons, I think it is. Yeah, 470,000 tons of aluminum every year by doing recycling. And people don't know that. I mean, I didn't know it. Our sign shop, again, this wasn't something anybody brought out. It just, you stumble on it and you say, well, wow, we do a good thing here. It's great. And it's like $600,000 a year is saved by doing that too. So those are some of the things we do. The rubber tires that you see all shredded along the roadways? Well, we do that. We pick up about 1,000 tons of that a year. And that's all brought in for recycling, and they make mats out of it and all kinds of different things from the recycled rubber. And we do about 1.2 million tons of recycle. We've used about 1.2 million tons of recycled material in our road projects in the last year is what we used also. So I mean, so there are some good things happening, and it's something that a lot of people, we don't bring it out enough. We don't talk about sometimes about the good things that we do sometimes. That's what I used to do when I was in communications. I would always try to do that. But so, in the end, we've been given some great gifts here on Earth. I mean, we've got, great rivers and streams and the land, and it produced, and it's been good to us for so many years. And, people talk about how much they care about children and grandchildren and this and that, and that's one of the biggest things you can leave for future generations is that land intact and the water drinkable and usable, and you know, take what you need and leave the rest and try to replace what you can, you know, through the process. But I have a passion for this, and I think it's great to be in front of a group that I know feels the same way, because it's, you know, some people think about it in a passing way, but we try to live it, and it's a very great thing. But I appreciate everybody being here and being invited here today, and if you have any questions, I'd certainly like to. Yes?
Yeah, about 25 years ago, IDOT started a project called Corridors for Tomorrow to plant prairie plants, primarily interchanges. And I know that's still going. I haven't seen or heard much of it. But more importantly, the monarch butterflies are in big trouble right now. And we just had a study come out saying about half of the 300 species of bees that used to be living around the Cooper County are gone. And a lot of that is due to roadside maintenance, removal of milkweed, things like that. So my next question is, if the department's thinking about putting in switchgrass for biofuel, does that also include a plan to have a certain percentage of flowering plants in the spring, summer, and fall, so that our native bees, butterflies, and other things that depend on the highways for a century still survive?
No, I hadn't looked at it in that terms, but I do know that they're going to mow it anyway. So there's not going to be that there for those to live on in a lot of the areas. The areas that, you know, and we're not going to plant it everywhere, for one thing. A lot of environmental aspects are going to be taken into respect. I mean, each place that is going to be planted is going to be, this is what I said about where if this, then what? So, that, I mean, every place that we do, if it's going to be a stretch here, we say, okay, what's this affecting? What's going to be the outcome of this? And you know, that's where we're going to go with this. Now, I didn't think of terms that, like you just pointed out, in terms of the butterflies and things of that nature. But you know, I'm not sure, Hans, if anybody working stuff that we're growing might actually attract certain types of species of things. I'm not sure.
We're not just looking at switchgrass. Back to the fly. Material project, and there's native prairie grasses, and all kinds of things.
You know, and like I said, most of this, you know, it doesn't get very, there's not much growth there before it's mowed anyway, because people are honest to have it mowed all the time. So it's basically that tall, and there's nothing there for, you know, I don't know. But like I said, all of it's going to be, every part of it is going to be, there's even some of it we're going to work with the Department of Natural Resources also. DNR, I'm trying to work with them that some of their land might be, because they have land that they got native grasses growing on right now. And so there's, all these things will be taken into respect, but I didn't think in terms, I know about the monarch butterfly shortage and the problem that's there. I'm not sure what's causing it. I mean, I know there's different theories and speculation, and the same with the bees. They're trying to figure out what's going on with the bees. But it's just any other. You got a question? Yes.
Yeah, I got a question from online about the accumulating. You're talking about that. My question is, I know that the Illinois Oasis is closing, which is the only center median rest stop in the state we're not aware of. Center median rest stops seem to be advantageous over two separate facilities for multiple reasons. Will they play a role in IDOT's future?
Well, you know what? I don't know. But that's one thing I don't want to do is try to answer something that I don't work with. Operations and other areas of the department would be working with that. I'm strictly from the, sustainable projects, ideas and concepts and things of that nature. So I know I have people ask me about the tollway, and I don't have anything to do with the tollway either. I'm a very, matter of fact, any specific things, I was just at a multimodal, intermodal meeting last night, and, I don't answer questions that I'm not the qualified person to ask to answer them, so I wish I could, but I just can't. Yes?
You said that you track the legislation.
Right.
Do you then collect it somewhere? Is it in,
We have,
how would I get the information that you're tracking?
we have legislative affairs office within our office, and I don't track it personally. They track it and send it to me. They say, this is environmental in nature. How do you want to, we need to move it around the horn, if it's got operations involved, if it's got, other parts of highway, we have to get input and see how we're going to handle it. I mean, this legislation that we just got is on the 25% of our vehicles have to be alternative fuel by 2016, and that's something that we have to deal with. Yes, we have our own specific people that work with all the legislation that comes through, and they try to hand it off to the proper people to try to see how we're going to work with it in the end. Yes?
Does IDOT work with an electronics recycler to collect and process the IPAS devices that people can get for their vehicles?
I don't know. I know that all of our electronic devices go through CMS, Central Management Services, anything that we have, except for things like cell phones. We've gone to people that can use them for other type of things. IPAS, I'm not sure the process on that at all. I'm not. Yes?
Back in the 80s, the state started its scrap tire and mosquito management program, and several of the studies were using recycled rubber in asphalt mixes.
Yes.
And there were a lot of benefits to the roads from that. It was largely blocked because the asphalt industry didn't want to lose the percentage that the rubber would take up. Has the department or anybody made any progress in the last 10 years in getting rubber into the asphalt mix or recycled tire material? I've talked to materials about that, and they came up with various reasons that it's not used as much as it could be. My capability to recall what those reasons were, I don't know. From the viewpoint that you're talking about, I'm almost from a lobbying standpoint. I'm a very sustainable individual. I work with it. I like it. I want it to happen. Doesn't necessarily mean that I always get what I want in that respect. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's there's barriers there. I mean, it's the same thing. Just from a personal opinion of electric vehicles probably could be out there faster and long, and be developed much quicker. But the people that, there's a lot of money in petroleum product vehicles right now, and there's a lot of retooling that has to be placed. There's a lot of people with money that want to be positioned so that they make money off of the new market. And until that capability exists, they're going to drag. It's not going to move as fast as we like, And there's a lot of sustainable things that's what's there. There's a lot of people making money off of the old way, and until they can position themselves to make money on the new way, then it's going to stay. But, and I was just talking to Kishore. I always keep going to materials and saying there has to be some type of a binder, some type of an agent that can be put into asphalt material and concrete material that can make the roads last longer and be more durable. And so, and they all tell me that, and I've talked to several guys in materials, and they just don't have an answer. At least they don't seem to have an answer. And I'm a large advocate of that. And I don't know what it would be. And I was just talking about, I thought that if we did find some type of material like that, it probably would make the roads a little less safe because it would probably be more dense, and it would probably be slick. It'd probably be very hard, smooth surface. It would be like going down a bowling alley almost, And you wouldn't have the traction capability to a degree because
from my, like steel. If you're riding on, it's going to be very slippery type of situation. But I don't know. I wish there was something that I could say that we could do to change the mixtures. Yes.
Along those lines, you were talking about the recycled contact asphalt. How does that program connect to you and to the materials folks? What's the organizational structure around that particular?
I go to them with ideas and concepts, and they tell me no. Well, our material, yeah, we have a materials lab. Yes, and they test what's being put out there during construction projects to make sure that the contractors are putting material out there that meets our specifications on a constant basis. Yeah. Right. Right. Sure. Sure. We were just discussing bricks that are made right now with bioash. So I mean, this is what I had recommended. I already talked to materials about the fact that if we have a large quantity of bioash from our facilities, could that be used in our asphalt material and so forth? And some of them say they don't see why not. But again, you have to have that in the specifications to the contractor that they would utilize that. And that's another hurdle that we probably have to get into. So, but we used over 12,000 tons of recycled shingles in our asphalt material last year. So, I mean, that's what it seems like. There's a bigger push towards recycled shingles in our asphalt than there is just about anything at this point that I've seen. And so there are some things. There was cullet was used in some materials before. Glass. I can remember I had a 10-speed bicycle that had thin little tires on it. The bicycle only weighed 21 pounds, and you couldn't hit large bumps with it, and you couldn't be, you had to be really careful. But the little slivers of glass were coming up through the roadway and would literally puncture my tire. You'd find a sliver of that glass in the asphalt, and you could see it sparkling as you're driving along, And I don't see too much of that being used anymore. Most of that was used on city street areas.